Hello, hello. I've been hearing some questions about the Korean conversion sheet. A big obstacle for a lot of people for filling it out is that it's entirely in Korean, and sometimes even if you Google Translate everything, the numbers don't work out. So I'm going to try to fill it out for my bishop, and hopefully people can follow along and get around to filling it out because there's some pretty useful information on here. I have a version of the conversion sheet pulled up. This is a not current version. It is actually slightly older because 6th job is in KMS and that's been messing up a lot of numbers. And I'm just going to make a copy of this. And I'm going to go ahead and use that. And while this is loading, I guess we should talk about why should we use this spreadsheet? Um, There's a few reasons to use the spreadsheet. One is KMS players use the spreadsheet a lot. What do they use it for? They use it to inform themselves of what content they can do, compare gear between players of their own class. They also use it to get into parties. You can have a conversion score of like a certain amount to get into a party. They also use it to, well, I guess like what solos they can do is part of what content they can do, right? So I'll just add here, including solos. They can also use it to compare future gear upgrades. So that's pretty useful. If you're thinking about reflaming, recubing, or even star forcing something, you can add in these stats yourself to see how much the gain will matter. Um, what else? As a result of that, a lot of KMS content include the conversion score in the description somewhere. So if you want to copy for Punch King, Dojo, Boss Solos, etc., you can check on YouTube or wherever, and the videos will sometimes have a score. Let's see what else. It's just cool. I think the spreadsheet is just kind of neat. It's easy to update, actually. So these are the reasons why I kind of like the spreadsheet, and I think it's a really good tool for others to use as well. Looks like the spreadsheet has updated, so I guess we'll just get right into it. So this is my Bishop Bossing Mule. It is level 255. I chose this because the gear is not perfect. I haven't done a lot of optimization on it. I've star forced a lot, and I've actually filled out the sheet for this character once already, and it has some particularities both with the class and with the gear that others will probably run into the same issue. So if I can get through that live on this spreadsheet, then hopefully people who might run into the issues can solve it the same way I'm going to solve it. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, first of all, pulling up the spreadsheet, we see there's this big red box. The red background means this currently selected class is a warrior of some sort, and I'm a bishop. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull up the translated calculator guide made by Exclusive KPR and Abandoned Hope. Uh, Lots of credit to them. This guide is super useful. So hopefully using this guide will help out. They have some calculator links in here, and I'll link the version I'm using as well. The newest versions are kind of wonky, so using the slightly older versions is okay until the KMS calculator like Discord group kind of gets things like more stable. And the first thing you'll see on this guide is that the calculator doesn't work for non-KMS classes, so no BT, no Hayato, no Kana. Sorry, obviously no Jet, but there's no Jet here anyway. Alright. So I'm gonna skip a lot of this and just go to like the kind of the bare minimums of what you could fill out just to get a number that works. So I'm gonna find bishop in here, and bishop looks like this. So I'm gonna look for it in the drop down. I believe it's this one. I am not a Korean speaker again, so sometimes it takes a little bit of guessing. That should be correct. And you see it's loading, and now the background's blue. Okay, that means it is a magician. And then the next bit I kind of ignore is I ignore all this part. Most of this is just saying like use your Maple Warrior and whatever. The important part is the class specifications, which is right here. And this, it wants me to have certain conditions for bishop. So because I don't speak Korean, I'm gonna copy it into this Korean translator. My KMS playing friends recommended this translator to me over the Google Translator, so this is what I use. It's called Papago. Alright, so here it says use a Miyong able ventilation on. So that's a little bit hard to read, but when you see Miyong, it just means Maple Warrior. Able, just from experience, I know this one is Advanced Blessing. And ventilation is, I think it's talking about vengeance. Yeah. What is this? Oops. Here we go. Use able. That's just Advanced Blessing, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so I'm gonna tab in. I'm gonna go ahead and use Maple Warrior. And then I'm gonna turn on Advanced Blessing. Tabbing back in, there's also really important are these three check marks. Basically these are talking about are you liberated, are you in reboot, are you using decent combat orders, and you can double check that by just copying it into the translator. So reboot, emancipation means liberation, and then soul combat is, I think this is combat order. And if you're confused, you can check here, and it says DCO. Oh. So I am actually not liberated, so that's a second check mark. I'm gonna go ahead and check it off. But I am on reboot, and I do have decent combat orders, so I'm gonna have those on. And then now this one, this first one at C10, this 282. So really, mostly you just have to worry about filling out this left column here, like this, all this here, and then a little bit of stuff over here. It's not too big of a deal. So this one is level. I am 255, so I'm gonna put 255. And then taking a look, this one is how much int do I have with Maple Warrior on? I have 37991 int. Oh, also make sure you have your links and legion on. So I'm gonna double check my links, double checking my legion. Yep. And then this one is how much int do you have without Maple Warrior? So I'm gonna go ahead and click off Maple Warrior. Okay, I clicked it off. And now I have 36930 int. Oops, I made a typo. 930. Alright. This is your AP placed into your main stat, and it should auto-populate. So it says 1293, and you can see right here I have 1293 AP int. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. And then here is secondary stat, which is luck for me. I have 9,829, so I'm gonna put that in there. This one here is your upper bound range. So right now, by this point, you should turn Maple Warrior back on. So I'm gonna turn it back on. While you're doing this, you should have familiars on as well, but my familiars died because I was bossing last night. And they're only IAD anyway, so they're not gonna affect this too much, so let's just pretend like I don't have them. Or we can pretend I have familiars on. Either way is fine. Just make sure that when you do this, you have your familiars on. I don't because mine are dead and I don't have any juice. 24798389. That's this number right here. 24798389. Okay, as for the rest of this, sometimes I get a little confused, so I'm just go ahead and copy this, put it into translate. The first line, it's damage. So damage percent from my window, it is 49. The next one is boss damage. Mine is currently 370. But if you have level 3 arc link, because KMS does not have level 3 arc link and it won't show up in your window anywhere, and you're not like, you know, you don't have your links activated when you're doing this, because of that, I'm going to add 5 to my boss value, because that won't change my range. So if you have level 3 arc link, just go ahead and stick another 5 on here. And then for IED, 96.54, like it says in my window right here. And then this next number, I forgot what it was, so I'm gonna tap back over. It is, right here it says, it's crit damage. Alright, crit damage, I have 82%, 82. And then this one is how much, like, main attack percent power you have, and that's pretty easy to fill out. You just go ahead and come here, and oh wait, I'm magic attack, so I mouse over this is 41. The important thing is that the calculator breaks if your equipment item is not a multiple of 3, so it has to be a multiple of 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the notepad. Actually, I'll make some notes. Things to watch out for. Attack percent must be multiple of 3. This is probably all in the guide too, by the way. Turn familiars on. Don't forget to turn Maple Warrior back on after filling in stats. Round up or down until the calculator works. So in my case, I have 41. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that I was going to run into some of this issue. So it says 41. I'm gonna round it up to the closest multiple of 3, which is 42. So I'm gonna put 42 here. And then now it wants your total weapon attack. So I mouse over my weapon, and my weapon has 681 total magic attack. So that's what the number that it wants. So Star Force and Flames combined. So 681 and base, obviously. All right. Now this next section, this number is your int, or your whatever stat you have, from symbols, arcane symbols. So I'm gonna open up my window. I do not have max symbols, but I'm gonna put it in. It's going to be 11100. All right. And then this next one is your int from sacred symbols. I do not have sacred symbols. I am only 255. There is a caveat we will talk about when we get to this section later, and I will talk about that later. But for now, I'm just gonna put 0. This one right here is your int from hyper stats. I have 4 points into hyper stats. I mouse over it. It says 120. All right, 120. All right. Whoever this sheet is based off of already had 120, so that's cool. Now these two are related to hexa matrix, so we can just ignore row 26 and 27 here. This next one is your int from your Legion board, and for people who are strength, dex, or luck based, you have to add in your Xenon block as well. Since I'm an int class, I do not have to add in my Xenon block. So we're just gonna take a look. So you need to add up your member bonuses for intelligence. So I have 100, 200, 300, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, another 320. So this is a total of 620 int. So I'm gonna put it in here. Okay, so now it's mad at me, and the reason why it's mad at me is because this number right here, 127.37, this is your final damage in your window, does not match my final damage in my window. I only have 120.94, and the reason for this is between this version of the spreadsheet and right now on GMS, Bishop got buffed, well, buff/nerfed. So I need to make my final damage match the KMS sheet, or it's not gonna work. So the way we do this is we're going to take a ratio of this FD 127 versus 120.94, and then we're gonna multiply our range to it. Okay? So I'm doing this on the fly. Forgive me if I am not too good about this. So we're going to do 127.37, and then we're going to divide that by 120.94, and then we're going to multiply this number by my range because my range is supposed to go up, 798,389. And then I get this number, and it's a little bit closer, but you will see that it's still going to get mad at me. Okay, it is still angry at me. So the reason for this is because there's some sort of weird GMS exclusive, I don't know, stat or something that just slightly makes our range off. And some of my friends have found a fix for this, and I think this is not in the stocks guide, is you go to this sheet right here, and you scroll over to U41, and then you highlight this all the way to the end, and then you take this range. I know it's kind of complicated, but yeah. You take that number and you paste it back in, and you should see it is barely different. Mine was only 3,000 off, and now I have a actual number. And my sheet is working. There's no more warnings. For other debugging options, you can use Stock's conversion guide. But now we can take a look at this orange section here. So this is a little more class specific. I'm going to take a look at this one. I'm going to copy that. This is buff duration. So for buff duration, I need to obviously put in my buff duration, right? I have 173% buff duration. So I'll put that in, and you can see my conversion number went up from 45k to 50k because buff duration is really good for Explorer mages. And then here, this is some stuff about like Affinia Soul, like some other factors that generally don't apply to most classes, and this is also in the guide. There's CD Hat. This should be Affinia Soul and another special soul, I think Mugong Soul. And then this one is damage, abnormal status damage. So this row right here comes only from IA, and you can see I have 5% of it here. So I'm gonna change this to a 5. Oop. All right, and then right here, this is Noblesse. I do not have any ID Noblesse in the skill, so I'm just gonna change that to 0. And generally, I just don't even touch the section down here. I really do not know, like, there's some like advanced user stuff. Yeah, I don't know what this is. So I don't touch this. You don't need to either to get a working number. These are just buffing options. So right now it's like fully buffed, but I can change the options here. This is probably also in the guide, but I'm going to just not touch it because I assume that if I'm going to be challenging some sort of content, I want to be like fully buffed anyway. These are just link skill options, so if your link skills aren't complete, you need to add this stuff in. There is some of this stuff that isn't going to be accurate because we have level 3 versions of certain links, like Arc, and that's why I manually added in 5% here. And then over here, this is your Mercedes and your Wild Hunter Legion level, so you can just independently translate these. I'm gonna translate it real quick. First one is Mercedes and the second one is Wild Hunter. Alright. So I have 250 Mercedes, so I'm gonna put in 250 Mercedes. You're gonna see my number adjusted a little more. So now that I have a working sheet, I'm going to scroll over here. You can see my performance on different bosses. I'm not even gonna look at the top row because, well, I don't have any sacred power and I'm not in Grandis on this character. But I'm gonna take a look at these bottom numbers, and it's telling me basically what the bosses I could do are. For example, it thinks I can do Chaos Gloom in about 15 minutes. I don't know if this is like completely true or not, but in general, I found that this sheet is pretty spot on if you filled it out properly. Oh wait, it's actually wrong because there's actually some Ozring options over here. So I thought this was kind of not normal too. I do not have an Ozring. This one is your Ring of Restraint level. And I don't have a ring of restraint, so I'm just gonna bring it down to 0. I still think I can clear Chaos Gloom though. So maybe that's something I should look into trying. I actually did try it last night and I didn't do so hot, but that's more of a me problem than anything, honestly. And something else to recognize as well is that at least this version of the sheet is the post EXP penalty changes in Reboot. So level penalty changes, right? Formerly, if you were the same level, or currently in GMS, if you're the same level as the boss, you just do like 100% damage, right? But now in KMS, if you are 2 levels under the boss, you actually do about the same amount of damage. So those adjustments are kind of up to you. I don't really like, I don't take this as like a Bible or anything, right? Like if it says I can clear something at like 100%, well, maybe theoretically I could maybe clear it, but maybe I can't because I would need to practice a lot or whatever, right? So it's just good to see like what you might be able to accomplish because you can match it up with your other performance and see like, oh, is this realistic for me or not? Like for example, let's see. It says I can do hard 450% of Hardamian. Well, 450% of Hardamian means in 30 minutes I can clear it, what, 4.5 times? So 30 divided by 4.5. What is that? Oh my gosh, I think I can do a 7-minute Hardamian? I don't know about that one. But in general, the numbers are pretty good. It might be assuming some 6-job things here, so you might have to find like an older version of the sheet. But this toggle here, by the way, is like putting in your own options, right? So like right now I have 1140. If I put in I have 1140 Arcane Force. Well, that's cool and all, but what if I had like more Arcane Force? So this first slot should be for Arcane Force adjustment. So what if I had like 30 more AF and you see it changed the Hardhilla number? And this number up here too, maybe 1170. And then you can also change your Sacred Power. Like what if I just had like 300 Sacred Power for some reason? And then you can see like I can do some damage to like, I don't know, normal Saren after the HP changes. And then this thing down here is your level. So what if I was like 20 levels up, right? Like we can look at Black Mage. Like what if I was 275 and I had like 220 more arc. Oh wait, what's 1460? How far is is 1460? 320. Oh, it doesn't like it. Oh, is it 1260? Whatever. You can see how these adjustments affected this Black Mage number here. Although it's not adjusting, maybe I broke this version of the sheet. Sometimes you have to copy it a few times. I know that's like not a lot of security, but it is what it is. Another thing that people bring up is GMS attack speed 0. So for attack speed 0 final damage adjustment, you need to know this value for your own class. For Bishop is about 7 to 8%. Then you put it in this big cell right here. This is XY1922, I guess. I'm gonna say X19. Cell X19. So I was told Bishop is roughly like 7%. If that's not correct, Bishop players, don't come after me. This is just what I was told. So you can put it in here, and it won't change your conversion number over here, but it will change your conversion numbers over here. So you can take a look. This is like, I think this is like Dojo spec. This is like 300 PDR spec. This is 380 PDR spec. And then over here it's like the same. And then there's like this Hexa thing, but I don't really understand this too much yet and we don't have 6 jobs, so let's just not worry about that. And then as for capabilities in the sheet, there's a lot of stuff you could do with it. There is hyperstat optimization over here. This is hyperstat optimization. So I can put in my current hyperstats and it will attempt to optimize for me. I didn't turn off my notepad again. But over here, this is hyperstat optimization. I'm gonna go ahead and just put in my current hyperstats on my bishop and see what it wants me to do. I'm not gonna go ahead and change my hyperstats though because yeah, I don't have familiars on, so I have a lot more IAD normally. Alright, crit rate. I probably should spec out a crit rate. Bishop has a lot of crit, so I bet if I moused over this, oh yeah, I can definitely spec out a crit. So you can copy this again, put it in here just to see. Alright, crit rate, crit damage. I'm gonna put 0 here. Crit damage, I have 11, and then, oops, and then it just goes in order. Ah. And then the last one is magic attack, or attack. And I can get 1.3% FD if I change my hyperstats. So I'm gonna do that later because that's actually a good amount of gains. And then over here, you can double check what you like your past and your future stat. So like I'm gonna take a look at my equipment. Let's see, let's just mouse over something random. I'm gonna do something with all stat on it. Okay, this one. So this one, the flame is pretty bad and the pot is pretty bad. So what if I decide to upgrade my flames, right? Right now I have a flame score of like 4% and 40. I can put that in over here. So I'm gonna put 4% int and 40. And then I want a better flame. Let's say I go for a 6%, 56. And I scroll over and you can, well, I can delete this because that's just my attack speed thing. And that's 0.45% FD, so that's pretty neat. What if I want to repot this? I have 18% int on this so far, so maybe I want to go for like a quick 27%. So let's just say I add another 9% int here, right? I'm gonna change this to 15, and now I get 1.65% FD from this. So this is a way you can use the sheet too. There's a lot of other capabilities. You can use this bottom part here to figure out how much like your secondary stat is worth compared to your main stat. I'm not gonna go too much into that because I generally don't do this and it's a little bit more detailed, and that's probably something for others to find out. But if you follow these steps, you should be able to fill out the spreadsheet and get some numbers spat out. I do find that recent versions of the spreadsheet, the bossing chart has been kind of wacky, especially for this bishop for some reason. But for my main, the numbers have been fairly accurate. Like it says I can solo hard Saren at like 110% or whatever the number is, and yeah, I can solo hard Saren, right? But actually, I don't even think it says that. I think it says something like a bit higher than that right now because of event stats and stuff. But either way, I find that the numbers for my main are pretty accurate. For this bishop, it's a little bit more questionable, but it's probably user error somewhere and I haven't investigated into it. Just wanted to show how to get the numbers to work and not break on you guys. So hopefully this was helpful. It says, oh, for the another thing about copy about bossing stuff, I'm gonna put this up. So KMS has this concept called min cut equals minimum damage solo, right? For this, KMS standard is around 80% on a boss means you can solo at very high performance, probably ring swapping, like all the goods, like really, really difficult. It's not 80%, or not 100%, sorry. For the best classes. Some classes can be disadvantaged or advantaged towards bosses. Like for example, there was a aCyr hard Saren solo where he only had 74% on his sheet for Saren solo, but he was able to solo it anyway. So a true min cut is about 80% in general, but occasionally you can see a few percent lower. So hopefully this can help people go out and challenge things. Like if your sheet says about like 110% or whatever, then you almost certainly can solo the boss and fairly comfortably with practice. If it's like even higher than that, then you probably don't even have to practice too much. And I think this is really useful because sometimes people ask a lot like, you know, what can we do? Well, you can use this sheet to help inform you. So I think that's it here. If you have questions, you can ask in the comments. I will try to answer them, although I'm not very experienced at doing this myself. I don't speak Korean, and I've been using the sheet on a regular basis, so I'll try to ask people who do speak Korean though, I guess. Yeah. So that's it. I know this wasn't too much like high production quality, but hopefully you can follow along. And if you're still listening, thank you for watching, and let me know if this helps you. Bye.